And so salespeople, here is the formula that I was taught when I started in sales, and pretty much every salesperson is taught. They were taught it in 1950. That's not when I started. They were taught it in 1950. They were taught it in the 1970s when I started. And today, this very day, as we sit here, there are sales managers and sales trainers all across the country, probably all across the world, with 8 people in a room, 80 people in a room, 800 people in a room, still teaching the exact same methodology that was taught by I presume Christ got the 12 disciples together for the sales training meeting and said, here's what we're going to do. Right? So the sales formula was this. Now, I don't have time to tell you the joke, so I'm just going to give you the punchline. Okay? You all ought to know the joke. And if you don't, somebody next to you knows the joke. You can get it on a break. Okay? But the sales formula is, yeah, I get slapped a lot, but I get a lot too. Okay? That's the whole approach to selling that has been there since the beginning of time. Go out there, get slapped a lot, and hopefully, law of averages says, every once in a while, somebody is going to say yes. That's the whole thing. You can summarize every sales training program pretty much that's ever been written right to that. So what's the flaw in that? Well, it requires 2 things. A, it requires a lot of selling skill. To survive doing that, you've got to get really, really, really good, which most people aren't willing to do. Secondly, maybe more importantly, it requires the willingness to get slapped a lot, which is sort of unpleasant, right? So it requires incredible persistence. For somebody to get up every morning and go out into the field, or go down into their retail store, or go into their showroom, or go into their professional practice office, knowing they're going to spend the day getting slapped. And maybe today, maybe tomorrow, maybe next Thursday, somebody's actually going to say yes. That takes incredible persistence. Right? But that's the whole approach to selling that has existed all through the ages. Right? So here's what it delivers. Erratic results, because some days people can take getting slapped a lot better than others. Right? If they had a motivational speech that morning, they can go a little longer getting slapped than if they didn't have a motivational speech. If they just came from a 3-day seminar, they got 3 or 4 days of that in them before they run out of gas. If they just had a victory and somebody actually said yes, they're more likely to really go for 3 or 4 days and take getting slapped. If they've gone 2 weeks without a victory, they start to slow down. Right? So you get really erratic results. Right? Secondly, you burn out. Either you or salespeople you're making do it, they run out of gas with this. They just don't want to get slapped anymore. So now pretty much we hide, is what salespeople do, right? So now we do busy work. So that used to be filing prospect files and updating the card file. And of course, that all went away with software. So then it became something else. The current place to hide is it's easier to get slapped at a distance than face-to-face. So salespeople hide Twittering. Because, so what, right? So you get erratic results, you get burnout, you tend to take yourself out of the confrontational situation. Also, you do damage to your long-term customer value because people who say yes to this approach to selling often regret it after they have said yes. The way I've explained this in the past is rapists don't get a lot of Valentine's Day cards. Okay? Excuse my voice. Right? I imagine they get some to be politically incorrect, but not many. So the prospect who feels they've been bullied, pushed, forced into a sale generally doesn't feel very good about it afterwards. So we're also hurting long-term customer value. Now, the business owner model for many, many, many years has been this. How can we get to the greatest number of eyeballs at the lowest cost, grab attention, and multiply it by repetition? So every business owner, here's how they spend their advertising dollars. Here's what they've done since somebody invented advertising is, how can I get the greatest number of eyeballs? How can I do it at the cheapest possible cost? No thought about comparative value of the eyeballs. How can I grab the attention of the greatest number of those eyeballs? And then, since that doesn't work very well, how can I repeat it over and over and over and over and over again? So what's the flaw in that? Well, all the money spent creating brand idea, identity, name recognition, product awareness, even buzz, all that money is spent reaching mostly people who cannot or will not buy the thing that is being advertised. So there is massive waste. Now, in recent years, the massive waste has been affordable because there's been so many people buying so much stuff indiscriminately without thinking about it. And by the way, if you've been doing really, really, really well, like in 2005 and 2006, and maybe 2004, I hate to tell you this, but a lot of that was not due to your incredible talent and expertise. It was due to the fact that the nation was full of people taking $15,000 at a crack out of their houses every 4 months and buying anything that wasn't nailed down. So a lot of people didn't have to be really good. Money was actually flowing uphill. All of a sudden that changed, didn't it? And so the waste now really is not affordable. When I built Magnetic Marketing, it was originally called the Small Business Emergency Survival System. That was its original title. Magnetic Marketing's better, but nonetheless at the time. And it was built specifically during the Carter recession, which, by the way, people who think that we've just been in a recession, they have no idea if they weren't doing business during the Carter administration. Double-digit inflation, double-digit interest rates, double-digit unemployment, and gas lines. So people were standing in line to get gas, not iPads. In this recession, they were standing in line outside the Apple store. That's where they were, okay? By the way, all that tells you, if by chance you haven't been doing well, is the guys at Apple are smarter than you are. That's all that tells you, okay? So it was built during the recession because in that recession, the waste was no longer affordable. Right now, the waste is no longer affordable, and for some time to come, the waste is no longer affordable. So it was built in the early 70s, 1972, 1973, somewhere around there. To give you some frame of reference, in 1973, which, by the way, well, I'll tell you a sec. So in 1973, Steinbrenner bought the Yankees for $12 million. I believe now the Water Boy has a 3-year, $12 million a year contract. The life expectancy was 71 years. The life expectancy is, of course, much better today for women. A new house was $32,500, just as it is today in New Orleans, Houston. The average income was $12,000. A new car the average price was $39,050. This is a car I currently own, which I bought a new one at the time, just like this, in 1973 for about $3,900. This one, by the way, costs $39,000, which makes no sense whatsoever. But you could also go to Harvard for $3,000 in 1973. And so in 1973, I began my life of well-thought-out choices. I bought that car. I did not go to Harvard. They're roughly the same price. Okay, so here's what's going on in advertising, right? Then and now. Okay, so we've switched, we got all kinds of new media, all kinds of different media, but here's what we're doing. We're still buying and counting raw numbers. We're still thinking about maximum number of eyeballs at the lowest possible price. How can we spend the least, get the most number of people to pay attention to us with no discrimination about who's paying attention to us? We are still broadcasting, not targeting. We were doing it in the 70s. We're doing it now. In selling, we're still afraid to qualify and quickly discard prospects. We want to talk to everybody. We're still out there hunting. We're still out there getting slapped a lot. We're still telling the raw number story to our salespeople and to ourselves. So the sum total of this is everybody's just as stupid as they were in 1973, 74, 75, maybe even dumber. They just have more media to be dumb with. Okay? That's the deal. All right? So, if you want to get smart about this, then this morning's pretty important. So, magnetic marketing was invented for a number of reasons. One, it was to change these flawed situations. It was about how can we, as salespeople, stop getting slapped a lot in order to get a yes every once in a while. How can we change that? As business people, how can we cut out the waste? How can we change that? It was by its nature contrarian because, and you guys all know this, you have heard me talk about it endlessly, and everybody nods in agreement. Bill just made it part of the oath for the young entrepreneurs who are here, and everybody nods. Yep, the majority is wrong. And then they go right on doing the same stuff that the majority is doing. They all nod, and they all keep doing it. Okay? It's like the litmus test. Is what I'm doing what the majority is doing? And if it is, odds are, at least in terms of financial results, it's wrong, not right. So it's not hard to look at what is everybody doing with advertising? What is everybody doing with prospecting? Well, let's not do that. Guys, if you want to stay with me, please. Let me control this for a second. Thank you. So it was about being contrarian. Then it was about eliminating repetitive manual labor for salespeople and business owners alike. And it was for better customer relationships, which I just talked about. And last, it was for better differentiation by process. And now you can switch back to me. Thank you. It was by better differentiation of process. Now, here's why that's real important now. Now, maybe more than ever, Jack Trout's line, differentiate or die, is extremely apropos. Right? Because people either are, or at least feeling like they should be, a little more thoughtful about how they spend their money. Now, that's not going to change anytime soon. Okay? You probably all have either parents or grandparents who came through the Depression. How many have a parent or probably a grandparent who lived during the Depression? Raise your hands. By the way, when I do that, you learn more by looking.